Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Marble. Thank you so much for coming today to this discussion about the Infusions breakthrough, the future of simulations. Let's get started. So today we're just going to talk about a few things. I always like to start with some quick virtual reality data, and then what does it mean to have real infusions in virtual reality? And then we're going to explore some stuff. We're going to talk about the transformation of the SimTech, that role, what does that mean? A digital investment for you. And then paving the path to the future for SimTechs, like upward mobility, and how does this affect you and impact you? So let's just do some VR data right now. So I really want you to imagine the possibilities when you hear things like 75% of students were so thrilled with VR that they said they'd still participate, even if it didn't count towards their grades. Imagine the possibilities. So 90% of students favored having VR at home. 80% expressed interest in the future of VR-supported courses. What we're seeing here is a little bit of a trend of students who feel comfortable, alone in their initial education, because it's very nerve-wracking to fail, especially in front of your students or your fellow students. And so they want to come to class confidently, but they're new and fresh. And VR, that is asynchronous, allows them to immerse themselves in clinical competency training, and they can confidently fail often and fail fast. And no, that's not going to affect your grade directly, but when you come into class, you still have to come to your simulation day and you feel a little bit more prepared. Maybe your questions that you're going to ask are a little bit deeper, are a little bit more well thought through because you've been practicing. So this big giant green, it's a Likert scale for multiple questions. So each LT 1, 2, 3, 4 was like a different question that they asked these students, and it had to do with how did you favor? What was your level of favorability on the tool, the VR as the tool? How was your level of understanding? How is your level of that type of thing? And so what you see here are the responses for students who use VR as a tool, and agreement is expressed in green and neutrality in yellow. And you can just see, if you just glance at this, there is an extreme agreement that students enjoy the tool. So how do they enjoy it? Well, so here this kind of breaks down some of the L2 components. So basically the questions. For example, students mentioning that VR helped them understand a specific topic better, or perhaps that it helped them visualize things better. We're not going to go into too much detail into that kind of science. We're just going to go right to the top level. You see this triangle. The very, very top expresses the most important and most valuable added thing for the student when they used VR, the tool, not just a specific product, but the actual hardware. And then the bottom was still important, but the least most valuable thing for them. So understanding, top of the list. We find that the VR tool helps students to understand in a way that would have been more difficult otherwise. And when you're talking about healthcare and nursing and simulation, we're talking about students having better clinical competency when they treat a real patient in real life, because they have a better understanding, not just a better visualization of the heart or the anatomy. So today we're going to talk about authoring infusions and what that looks like, exploring this transformation, this wave of technology, and then a path paving the future for SimTechs. So we're just going to talk a little bit about how heavy this lift was. We at VR Patients built, or our dev team, built actual editable infusions in smart pumps, up to 10 bags on 10 pumps into any multi-lumen critical care port on the body, up to 4 lumens, I believe. All of this needed to be constructed and built. And it's not just about the artwork. There's a lot of math involved in making sure that when you enter in an infusion at a specific rate, at a specific dose, that the digital tool will output a correct math, a correct answer for you. Meaning you can feel confident that when you put in 2 + 2, then in the simulation it's going to output 4. So that way you know it's an accurate dosage being given to the simulation patient who is sick. And because you can author it, you can author in a physiologic response to the simulation. Now I'm just going to click on this really quick because it's a video. Sneak peek. Now, what you're seeing here is a little bit of a back-end sneak peek of one of our developers who recognized that in order to make sure that the bags, they drain in real time, just like they would in the real world, even though some infusions like vasopressin might go for 10 hours or epinephrine might go for a really long time, might be a really slow drip, you can start your simulation with only 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left in the sim. And so what you're seeing here is a little bit of the back end on Unity in the system, but the ability to ensure that these bags can change colors. So you can hang different kinds of medications and visually they look representational to real life, what you could expect. Here you go. So the bags drain and the colors are actually representational to what the medication is in real life. Hopefully you're not infusing purple fluids into your patients. Now we're going to show you another video. I want you to see a little bit about what it looks like to build infusions. Okay, so in the sim, you as an instructor you log in and you can go through the menus. As you're clicking through the menus, you'll see in the medications area you can select a medication and then switch over to infusions of that medication. It could be a micrograms per kilo per hour or per minute. And you can really change your medication, your dosage form, the volumes, you can change your formulary, and then you can build out a logic. That's what this open box here is on the side. And logic is essentially, if this happens, then that. And we're going to see that in just a minute. Here. Now again, you don't have to be a developer to see this. So this next screen, to do this, to complete this. This next screen that you're seeing here is a paper doll where you can select what part of the body you want this infusion to go into, what you would like this to look like, what's the site going to be? Is it going to be a saline lock? Is it an internal jugular? Is it an IV? How many ports is it? This one here is a 4-port internal jugular on the right side. And so we got a multi-lumen going in here. And again, this is a normal instructor who can make these changes and does not need to be a developer. Now, on at start, super important. That's what I was talking about before. The sim begins for the student and the medications are already on at the start. And that doesn't mean that the medication has just begun. It means a certain amount of time could have passed. You could have made it so that way this drip set is already 90% complete. And so the student's going to start the sim and they need to treat this patient based on what the current infusion is at. So they need to go over, look at the infusion rate. They see how much time is left. They need to assess the patient and see what their skin is doing and get some dialogue going and ask them how they're feeling. And then they can titrate to effect if they'd like live in the sim. So what you're seeing here is the computer-based version, the web-based version of the simulation. And this is Hawthorne and he's sick. And so this is the student view. The student would go in and they're trying to be a professional, competent professional, because they're learning. And so they're going to go in here and they're going to select their medication. They're going to see there's already an infusion running. There's a certain amount of time left. They can see their volume to be infused, where it is, a central line, and it's proximal. Now, what you don't see right now is actually a bag set of 10 bags. And that's just because this is a very early visual representation, and this is about to launch on the platform in about a month or two. So you will see, once we get the artwork in, of the multiple bags and bag sets, which I'm going to show you some imagery of here in just a minute. But the important thing is that the engine works. This is what I was talking about with the logic. Now what you can see here is an action. If this happens, then we're going to check something in the system. So when a medication or an infusion is administered, it's going to check what was the triggering administration and what kind of drop set was it, how many milliliters, and with what dose, and then we're going to change the vitals. Then this is going to happen. We're going to change the vitals, and on this particular simulation, it's just by 1. It's a proof of concept. So if you give this drip set at this dose, then the SVO2 is going to go up or down. Then the respiratory rate is going to go up or down. And then that's the back end, the instructor view. And then in sim, the student goes in and gives the infusion, like administers the actual infusion medication at the location, 100 mLs. They're going to do a peripheral port, and they're going to do the roller clamp method on a 10 get set. And when they administer this, we should see the SpO2 go to 1. Not because that's accurate. We wouldn't want anyone's SpO2 to go to 1, but it's because we want to prove that when you administer the appropriate medication that there is a physiologic response on the monitor. And so that is that proof on the development side. So you can understand when you do the logic, if this, then that happens, your 2 + 2 = 4 in the system. Now, a lot of that might seem confusing. Like, oh my gosh, I need to be a developer to do this. So we pride ourselves in being able to train the sim specialist because our goal is to empower you. And now we're going to get into exploring this transformation and paving a path forward for simulationists, right? Because what's happening is a wave of technology is coming. A lot of them are very flashy. Some of them are very useful, and others feel flashy and not useful. But at the end of the day, VR Patient's goal is to provide a useful, beautiful platform that you can own. You should never be at the whim of a company to provide you with simulations that you need now for your institution or your organization. And the only way to get there is to empower you and to train you to use a new tool that allows you to build whatever you want to meet the needs of your organization. So if you have a Sentinel event, let's train on that Sentinel event. Don't wait 6 months. Don't always be charged to have to pay to download someone else's conception of what you need. And then you have to change your curriculum to meet that need, or change your training to meet that need, or to meet that representation of a simulation. No one knows what you need better than you. You're a simulation expert. You're a nurse, clinical educator. You know what your hospital or your school needs. So our goal is to empower you to meet that need on your own. That's why we train you. It's very much like becoming a CHSOS or a CHSE for virtual reality. And that's my dream for you guys, is to try to build something for you that you own. It's your intellectual property at your organization, and empowers you as a sim tech to be extremely powerful. Does not replace in-person learning. Does not replace mannequins. I want to reiterate one thing, and I actually didn't say this yet. VR Patients does not dabble in physical skills. You still need to learn to spike the bags in person. You still need to go up to a pump and practice pushing the buttons on a real pump. You still need to practice your IVs in person. But the clinical decision-making and practicing on your dosages and why you're going to do this treatment and then what happens to the patient because you gave that treatment, those are invaluable. That's what makes a better clinician, who's going to be in front of real patients. There was a keynote here earlier today, and that keynote, or maybe it was yesterday, they were talking about the Apollo missions. And he said, fail down here so we don't fail up there in space, right? That's the goal here. Now, what you're looking at here is a bar graph. I'm sorry I haven't talked about this. We want you to be able to build something so you can measure real outcomes. Create KPIs for your organization that are clinically minded. So now you have a digital investment, you have a digital tracking of all the simulations you're doing, and then you can measure and go, wow, after we implemented this amount of digital training that was asynchronous and remote and on the laptop or on the VR headset that met our needs for our organization and spoke to our local population because I built it. You know, maybe our maternal morbidity rates are too high on pregnant females, and so I built pregnant female patients and with infusions, and we simulated on that, and now they're going down, or now they're getting better, or now our clinicians are more ready. So what you see here is one of our customers. They've been measuring for the last year the competency of their students who are getting hired by ambulance agencies. This happens to be paramedics, but same concept applies to nursing. And effectively, the students who are done with their virtual reality training, done with their didactic education, and then they go on to get hired, and now they're an intern. They're during their initial hire period. They're tied to a proctor. These students are tied to a proctor for a less amount of time than students who did not use virtual reality in their education, meaning they are reaching clinical competency as a professional faster. And so here's the quote. We are using VR patients for clinical simulation every week at scale. And these students are becoming competent 68 hours faster. And 68 hours may not seem like a lot, but that's time away from their families, away from their job to pay their bills and feed their children. 68 hours is almost 2 weeks of work uncompensated. And with VR training at scale, we're getting competent healthcare providers into the workforce much faster, which puts less strain on the agencies providing internships and helps our community, and it contributes to his accreditation audits. It allows him to track every single step, every single move, and export to a PDF or CSV, proof of clinical competency. So the question is, are you editing or are you authoring? Or are you buying? Are you downloading? Do you own your work? Or are you actually using someone else's work and just bending your curriculum to fit that? Are you downloading content? Does that content do most of your job? Are you in control of that content? When you truly master something and you continually get better at it, people can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you. That's Vin Gang. I'm going to butcher his name, but I really love listening to that guy. I think about the SimTech and their ability to master immersive simulation. That is a really, really potent and powerful tool on their tool belt. And that ability to do that empowers you into the future. The virtual reality wave, the augmented reality wave, this immersive digital wave is coming. There are states across the country that are lifting limits of clinical time, in-person time, and allowing nurses to replace 33%, 50% of their in-person clinical time with an immersive solution like VR patients. I mean, there is no way for us to meet the nursing shortage that's coming over the next 7 years. We're going to be short 15 million CNAs, bedside workers, nurses. There's no way to meet that need if you can't scale up competency training, and you can't always be one-to-one for every single moment. You need your learners to go off and iterate on their own and come back in with better questions, deeper questions, and more practice. We need our students and our healthcare workers to iterate on hundreds, thousands of non-destructive patients. So you can fail down here and not up there. What you're seeing here are some images, some pre-previs. That means early imagery of what the pumps are going to look like in VR patients when we push the release out. This is just an example of 3 bags, but you can hang up to 10 bags on 10 smart pumps. Now, I'm out of time. I was going to ask someone from the audience to come up and do their own authoring, but instead, I'll encourage you to come down to our booth. We've got multiple laptops set up because you don't need to be a coder. Just take your expertise, come on down. It is drag and drop. It is click, add, run the sim. And learning to utilize a tool that can help you construct more simulations. It's like you're an architect with a better hammer who can build more houses in any house you want. Learning to use that tool, it's like climbing a mountain with a promised land on the other side. It empowers you to take control of the immersive wave before it arrives. So that way no one is caught flat-footed. And when your organization leaders say, we need to catch up, you can say, I already know how to do this. Or we are caught up. Thank you guys very much for your time. My name is Devin Marble. Feel free to email me. Check out the website at vrpatients.com. We have a podcast called Immersive Medical. Give it a listen. I've actually interviewed quite a few of you here at SimGHOSTS, so you're going to hear your voices talking about your big challenges in Sim and your solutions. And that's the Immersive Medical podcast. We'd love to see you down at our booth, and we'd love to chat with you and see if we can solve problems for you at scale. Thank you very much.